In the crucible of American democracy, where the clash of ideals ignites sparks that either illuminate or incinerate the fragile tapestry of public discourse, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, the indomitable daughter of Dallas, whose voice carries the weight of ancestors who toiled under the lash and litigated under the law, unleashed a rhetorical meteor storm on September 23rd, 2025, during a nationally televised CNN town hall billed as a dialogue on democracy, transforming a stage shared with Jessica Tarlov, the cerebral Fox News pundit whose Ivy League polish and progressive-leaning contrarianism had carved her a niche as the voice of reason in conservative echo chambers, into a seismic battleground where Crockett's surgical intellect and unapologetic moral clarity dismantled the edifice of media complicity with a precision that left the audience of 35 million, from the neon-lit diners of Des Moines to the Wi-Fi star barrios of South Texas, gasping in awe as the airwaves crackled with a kind of raw, unscripted truth-telling that hadn't been seen since Baldwin debated Buckley in '65, exposing not just the fault lines in Tarlov's carefully curated persona, but the deeper rot in a media landscape that thrives on division over dialogue, a spectacle that didn't just dominate trending topics with hashtags like Crockett crushes and Tarlov trembles, but reshaped the contours of political accountability, forcing a nation to confront its own complicity in the commodification of truth. Clad in a tailored emerald blazer that shimmered under the studio lights like a nod to the resilience of the marginalized communities she champions, Crockett, her locks pulled back to reveal eyes that burned with the fire of a civil rights attorney who'd spent 15 years defending the defenseless against corporate Goliaths and state-sanctioned oppression, stood at the podium like a general surveying a battlefield, her presence alone commanding silence from a crowd that included everyone from Georgetown law professors to Uber drivers clutching their phones, while Tarlov, the 41-year-old daughter privilege whose journey from Wall Street analyst to Fox News darling was paved with Princeton degrees and a knack for threading the needle between liberal ideals and conservative airtime, opened with a polished monologue about the Fourth Estate's sacred duty to challenge power, her voice smooth as silk but sharp as a stiletto, citing Tocqueville and the First Amendment to argue that media, even when flawed, is democracy's oxygen. Her hands gesture with the practiced ease of a TED Talk veteran as she referenced a 2024 Pew study showing 62% of Americans distrust mainstream outlets yet rely on them for civic engagement, a paradox she framed as a healthy tension that keeps the republic vibrant, blissfully unaware that Crockett, armed with a war chest of data, FOIA-requested emails, Nielsen ratings breakdowns, and a proprietary AI model trained on 10 years of cable news transcripts, was about to detonate that narrative with the force of 1,000 suns. The fuse was lit when moderator Anderson Cooper, his silver hair glinting like a beacon of neutrality, posed a softball question about restoring trust in media, inviting Tarlov to expound on her role as a bridge builder between left and right. Her response a masterclass in deflection as she pivoted to anecdotes from her book, The Fractured Republic, weaving tales of town halls where real Americans craved unfiltered truth over coastal elitism, her words dripping with the earnestness of a reformer while sidestepping Fox's $1. $6 billion Dominion settlement for peddling 2020 election lies, a sin Tarlov had won softball on air as overzealous reporting in a 2023 segment that drew 4 million viewers, but zero apologies. But Crockett, her binder open like a grimoire of journalistic indictments, didn't wait for an invitation. Her voice cutting through the studio's hum like a blade through silk. Jessica, you speak of bridges. But let's talk about the toll booths. Your network's been charging America's soul for access to truth since it bankrolled a coup narrative that cost lives, from a Capitol cop crushed in a doorway on January 6th to the Buffalo grandmother gunned down, because your primetime prophets like Carlson amplified replacement theory as entertainment. You cited Tocqueville, so let's quote him right. A democracy cannot survive without a press that informs rather than inflames. Where's the informing when Fox's own internal emails, released in the Dominion suit, show execs knew the fraud claims were baseless yet pushed them for profit, raking in $2 billion in ad revenue in 2021 alone, while my district's voters, 68% black and brown per the census, face poll closures fueled by the same lies you called zealous? The crowd, a mosaic of red state ranchers and blue city baristas, erupted in murmurs as Tarlov's smile tightened, her fingers clutching her notes like a lifeline, but Crockett, channeling the ghosts of Sojourner Truth and Shirley Chisholm, pressed forward with ferocity that was both forensic and poetic, her tablet flashing a real-time data visualization, crafted with Stanford statisticians, that mapped Fox's 2024 coverage, 1,487 segments on voter fraud versus 89 on voter ID laws, disproportionate impact on minorities, the screen glowing with crimson spikes that screamed agenda. This isn't tension, Jessica. It's torsion. Twisting the truth until it snaps. Your 2022 op-ed in the New York Times mourned the death of nuance. But when your co-host smeared Haitian immigrants as disease vectors last month, citing zero CDC evidence while amplifying a 4chan hoax, where was your nuance then? Or when you nodded along as Gutfeld called BLM protests riots 312 times in 2023 per Media Matters, but framed January 6th as a patriotic parade? Is that the bridge you're building or just a drawbridge you pull up when the facts don't flatter your audience's fears? Tarlov, her cheeks flushing beneath the studio's unforgiving glare, rallied with a counterattack, her voice rising with the cadence of a debate captain as she invoked the First Amendment's marketplace of ideas, arguing that Fox's excesses were balanced by MSNBC's biases. Her evidence, a 2023 study from the Annenberg Center, showing 71% of cable news viewers consume only one network, creating echo chambers on both sides. Jasmine, you're preaching to choir about accountability. But let's not pretend Democrats don't play the same game. Look at Rachel Maddow's Russiagate obsession, 1,200 segments in 2019 alone, hyping a conspiracy that Mueller's report deflated. We're all flawed, but the answer isn't censorship, it's more speech. A line that drew scattered applause from conservative flank, but Crockett, undeterred, her eyes gleaming with the clarity of someone who'd faced down judges and juries in defense of the disenfranchised, countered with masterstroke that fused empathy with evisceration. Jessica, you're right, more speech. Not less, but speech that enlightens, not endangers. My great-uncle was a Tuskegee airman, shot down in 44 believing. In America, you're a marketplace, now mocked with memes that dehumanizes heirs, like the 17-year-old in my district jail for a protest your network called a looting spree, without mentioning the 4,000 jobs gutted by the factory closure he was marching against. Facts you'd know if you spent one day in Dallas's 30th, where 22% live below the poverty line per HUD data. Instead of debating from penthouses, your own words betray you. In your 2021 podcast, you said media must mirror the margins, not just the mainstream. Yet when Fox buried the 2024 Texas voter roll purges, 11,000 names, 73% minority per the Brennan Center, under a single cheering, while hyping a single fake ID case in Ohio for 47 minutes. Where was your mirror then? The studio, now a pressure cooker of bated breath and flickering camera lenses, watched as Tarla's composure cracked, her eyes darting to Cooper for rescue, but Crockett, her cadence slowing to a preacher's rhythm, unveiled her piece to resistance, a live-stream truth track app co-developed with Howard University coders, displaying a real-time ledger of Fox's airtime allocation. 88% of 2025's election coverage skewed to GOP talking points, with Tarlow's own segments clipped to 22 seconds, on average when defending abortion or climate policy, versus Hannity's uninterrupted 7-minute rants. This isn't a marketplace, Jessica. It's a monopoly of mendacity, where your voice, brilliant as it is, gets muzzled by the machine you serve. Remember your 2018 CNN hit, where you torched Ailes' legacy of fear-mongering? That was you unfiltered, not this Fox filter version tiptoeing around the truth to keep your seat. Imagine if we teamed up, you and I, to rebuild that marketplace. Picture a platform where your Princeton smarts and my Street Forge spine co-host a show that doesn't just spar but solves, dissecting disinformation with data, not drama, uniting the 81% of Americans who, per Gallup, want media to just tell it straight. Tarlov, her voice catching like a snag thread, tried to pivot, citing her bias breaker segments as proof of her independence, but the audience, now a chorus of whispers and live tweets, sensed the tide turning as Crockett, her empathy a velvet glove over an iron fist, leaned in. Jessica, I see you, a scholar who could have been a senator, trapped in a gilded cage where your principles are props for profit. I litigate for single moms against slumlords who'd rather evict than fix pipes. And I see the same eviction of ethics here. Your network's $2.8 billion in 2024 ad revenue, per Nielsen, thrives on stoking rage, not reason. Yet you've got the pen to rewrite that script. In your 2020 book, you wrote, "Truth is the only currency that doesn't depreciate. Prove it. Join me in calling for an FCC probe into algorithmic bias, not just at Fox, but across the board, because of 14 black kids in my district who lost scholarships when their parents couldn't vote due to purge rolls aren't here for your healthy tension. They're here for justice." The town hall, now a crucible of conscience, erupted as Crockett's words landed like thunderbolts, the Jumbotron flashing viewer texts, hashtag Jasmine for President trending with 1.2 million mentions in an hour, while Tarlov, her eyes glistening with what viewers swore was a tear, offered a rare concession. "Jasmine, you're fire." It's a wake-up call, her voice trailing into vulnerability as Cooper, sensing history, extended the segment, but Crockett, ever the strategist, closed with clarion call. "This isn't about me versus you, Jessica. It's about us versus a system that's turned truth into a slot machine, paying out only when the right levers are pulled. Let's break the machine, rebuild it with the bricks of integrity, because the America my ancestors died for deserves a press that doesn't just report the storm but steers us through it." The fallout was tectonic. The unedited clip shattered streaming records with 62 million views by midnight, surpassing Beyoncé's Super Bowl halftime drop, as X lit up with Gen Z edits syncing Crockett's zingers to Kendrick Lamar beats, law professors from Yale to Morehouse hailing her as the Zola of our zeitgeist, while even conservative stalwarts like Ben Shapiro tweeted, "Crockett's tough, wrong but tough." A grudging nod that sparked 400,000 retweets. Inside CNN, producers scrambled to offer Crockett a weekly segment, Truth on Trial, while Tarlov, shaken but stirred, pitched a joint podcast with Crockett, Crossfire Reborn, their pilot episode pulling 15 million downloads, a raw dialogue where Tarlov admitted, "You show me my blind spots, Jasmine. I'm done dodging them. Their chemistry a beacon for bipartisanship." Crockett's proposed Media Truth Act, mandating real-time disclosure of editorial cuts and ad influences, gained 72 co-sponsors, including Ted Cruz, who called it a gut punch to groupthink, while Quinnipiac polls showed 79% of Americans, from MAGA to DSA, cheering her call-out culture done right. Law schools minted the Crockett Doctrine, a pedagogy on media ethics, with her app's open source code adopted by 200 universities, and in Dallas, murals of her in mid-speech sprouted like wildflowers, one caption, "Truth don't bend, it breaks barriers," inspiring a 42% surge in black voter registration drives for the NAACP. Months later, as Tarlov left Fox for a PBS special with Crockett, their democracy dialogues drew 30 million. Their banter a masterclass in mutual respect, while Crockett's act passed the House, sparking FCC reforms that slashed partisan airtime by 22% per ad week. A year on, as the 2026 midterms loomed, Crockett's town hall became folklore. Cited in every debate from school boards to Senate floors, her data visualization standard in AP Civics and in Quiet DC. Bars, journalists toasted, "The night Jasmine made Jessica and all of us rethink everything." Their glasses raised to a republic reborn not in rancor but in reckoning, a testament that one voice, armed with facts and fortified by faith and forgotten, can rewrite the rules of the game, turning talking heads into torchbearers for a truth that doesn't just speak but sings. A symphony of accountability that echoes from this electric evening to eternity's edge. And if this saga sets your spirit soaring, share it. Calm your own moments when courage cut through the noise, and subscribe to the chronicle of a congresswoman who didn't just win a debate, but won back a piece of America's soul.